Make the motion to enter into closed session under NCGS 143.318.11A3 to consult with town's attorney to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the town's attorney and the board.
Mr. Amberger's made the motion. All in favor? We're moved. So, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilman Amberger, you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Everybody pause for a moment of silence. This moment of silence in honor of Mayor Alvarez. May he rest in peace. Amen.
Amen.
Everybody be seated, please. As you know, this week, last week, our mayor passed away. He leaves a wife and 3 children, 2 adult children. He's got a child about 9th grade, 8th grade age. There is a GoFundMe site out there if you'd like to contribute to the funeral. If you want to reach out to the family, you can do that directly. I know the town has put together a card if you want to sign it and be a part of that. I think that's a great thing, but just wanted everybody to know, town manager is going to announce the arrangements as we know them later in his manager's report. But right now, we're going to have each council person give say a little something about our friend who passed away, and I'll start. Mayor Alvarez, through his courage and his health battles, was an inspiration. Never complained about losing his arm, and if you read his book in U.S. history, he's battled health issues his whole life, and he finally succumbed to cancer. But, you know, despite his health issues, Alvarez was always working tirelessly for the town. He took the job of mayor very seriously. His job in collaboration with others earned the mayor the respect of his peers, not only among council, but if you realize the North Carolina House adjourned last week in honor of Mayor Alvarez. Representatives Dean Arp and David Willis, that's a tribute to their respect that they had for Michael Alvarez. Senator Todd Johnson, Sheriff Kathy, Captain Kevin James, and so many have put out words to recognize our wonderful mayor we've had for the last 10 years. Given the size and growth of Indian Trail, almost half the people that live here have only ever known Mayor Alvarez as their mayor. So he's ingrained in our town. I've known Mayor Alvarez most of my time living here in Indian Trail. My youngest child and his daughter went to grade school together. For the last 2.5 years, I've talked, except for the last couple of months, I've talked to Mayor Alvarez 2 or 3 times a week. I mean, he was a friend of mine. He was a friend of me. Some of you that, you know, people that know Michael Alvarez, when he called you, it always seemed like he was in a drive-through. Did you ever notice that? You know, and he tickled me because he'd be like, hold on, let me have a small coffee with 6 sugars and 2 creams. You're like, dang, Alvarez, you're going to get jacked up on some sugar today, aren't you? He goes, oh, I need it, you know, so, but he was funny that way. But one of the good things about Alvarez was he was always working to better himself. As mayor, he obtained his associate's degree from South Piedmont College. For the last year or more, he's been attending Wingate University. He's been studying psychology, and also a lot of people didn't realize it, but he was also doing religious studies. My nickname for him was, I called him the Reverend. So, and he actually had talked about maybe being a Reverend one day. You know, he could be real serious, and also he could also laugh at himself. One day I got behind the vehicle that, if you ever saw it, it had the word squirrel on the back of it. And I called him, and he's just talking. He says, I'm headed to town hall, and I started blowing the horn at him. So all of a sudden, he says, hold on. Take that horn, stick it up, you blankety blank, you know. So I just died laughing. I'm just dying laughing. I said, that's me, Alvarez. I said, if you're going to be a reverend, you might have to clean up that language a little bit. He goes, oh, I know. So I let town hall know about it. So he comes down here later on, and he calls me up, and he goes, oh, my God, old town hall asked me about my road rage this morning. He said, Brandy, Abby, everybody. But he loved the people down here, and he loved that type of jocularity and that type of respect. Alvarez just loved people, and it was just, he loved people on social media. I mean, if we all knew him, I want to make a comment, he'd call you and say, do you know so-and-so? Do you know so-and-so? They said this. He'd reach out to people. Now, he wasn't afraid to challenge you on social media either. He stood his ground on his principles. And that was a testament to him as mayor and his respect he had for the people in the town and respect for his view of what things and how they should be. Wasn't afraid to call out the DOT or anything that if he felt like. Mike Alvarez loved people, and Mike Alvarez was a friend. To me, he was a good mayor and a good person for 3 reasons. One, he cared about being a better person. Next is he cared about his family. You saw Alvarez, you saw him with his kids, wife, they went everywhere. And he cared about his town. He really did care. A true testament to Alvarez to me is a person that will reach out and help people, especially people that couldn't help themselves. He did tons of fundraisers behind the scenes. He worked tirelessly to help people. So, you know, when Michael Alvarez passed away, we all lost a friend. We all lost someone who would go to bat for you. We all lost a person who maybe couldn't afford an AC unit for their thing, or he'd go to Randy Simpson and say, hey, so-and-so can't afford a Christmas tree this year. I mean, you got no idea how many times the people that he did Meals on Wheels. I mean, Alvarez was a community person, and he was a person who gave back. If I could say anything, I say Alvarez, his legacy is he gave back to his town, and the town was a better place because of Michael Alvarez. Michael Alvarez was my friend. He was our mayor, and my thoughts and prayers go to his family, and may God and his soul rest in peace. And that's what I have to say about him. Next is I'd like to call on Councilman Gay, Dennis Gay. What do you like to add?
Well, that's a hard one to follow. You covered an awful lot of things about the mayor. My favorite things about him, he was so entertaining when I first met him, when he managed the Pita Pit, and I'd go to lunch down there just for the entertainment of watching him cutting up with everybody and going back and forth. But you know, he really did care about the town. He was always watching social media. If somebody mentioned a pothole, he was on it. If a tree was down someplace, he was on it. He really cared about taking care of the people of the town. And he was entertaining. I'll never forget, we had the Republican Party headquarters open up, and they stretched a big red banner across, and he had a big red tie on, and I yelled at him off to the side. I said, Alvarez, don't cut your tie. And he turned and looked, and somebody said that his profile looked like a squirrel, and he stuck with that name the rest of his life. He had people calling and actually mailing squirrels to him from different places in the country. So, but he was very caring. He was always a friend. Anything that I needed, he was always there. And, you know, God rest his soul. And thank you.
Councilwoman Crystal Buholic.
Michael actually really loved our town, and I feel like he's done a great job as the mayor. I actually met him when I reached out to him for a charity event, and he, of course, helped me and said, well, I'm going to use you in the future. And from there, I got voluntold for countless events after that. You know, it's a tremendous loss for our community, and he's definitely will be missed, and just praying for, you know, all of his family and friends.
Thank you. Councilman Tom Embry.
I should ask to go first. I mean, you know, I've known Michael a long time. I've known him, you know, almost 20 years. He and I served on the Homeowners Association together, and he, just a quirky fella. You know, he really was. He's funny. He did love Jill and the kids. You never saw him without Alex or, can't think of her name, Vinyl, she spells her name funny, and Ashley, of course. But Michael, you know, I got one little funny story I shared with Kathy Queen. My wife will probably kill me for telling you this, but we bought a brand new carpet shampooer, and he came over. He just happened to stop by because we were neighbors too, and he came over and noticed, you know, that I was working on that. He says, "Can I borrow that?" Yeah. About 3 months later, I went to get it. He sold it in a yard sale. He did write me a check for $75, and it didn't bounce. But no, Michael was a great guy. You know, just a good person. You guys, I knew him personally. I know they battled hard with all his ailments, and all I can say is God bless him and his family, and God rest his soul.
Thank you, Mr. Ambergy. Town Manager, Mike Millar, would like to speak on behalf of the whole staff. And
Yes, sir. What I would like to do with the consent of the board is read some comments that we received from some of the employees. I'll offer just very brief comments, and then with the consent of the board, you know, Karen worked with him. Karen may have some comments she wants to offer. Without revealing any names, one said, "I enjoyed the brief conversations I was able to have with Mayor Alvarez when he visited Town Hall. He was always on the go, always had somewhere to be. The mayor was always supportive, complimentary of staff. When he attended events, he took time to say thank you for the work you're doing. His dedication to the residents of Indian Trail and the staff at Town Hall are hard to replace. He fought a hard fight and is finally able to rest. The town and the residents will miss you, Mayor Alvarez. For me, it was a privilege to work with him for the time that I did. I'm going to so miss getting to do so again." The Parks and Rec side of things, we were first introduced and got to truly know the mayor during the mayor's tree education. The program's in its 10th year, and each year has continued to grow. During the program, the mayor got to know the school administrators, teachers, students. He brought humor to education and was able to provide much of the needed tree shade to all of our local school programs. He was instrumental in ensuring that each student had a tree to take home and plant for their family, essentially strengthening the community and family bond. Over 6 dozen large trees have been planted on playgrounds, and over 8,000 trees have been given to students. This program will continue for years to come. He was also a big part of the events. He was able to help out, handle a problem, welcome a crowd, or answer questions. He would often say, "I work for you, put me to work. Let me solve the problem so that you can do what you need to do." He was almost at every event, day or night, truly part of the community. Mayor Alvarez was a true advocate for the youth of Indian Trail. He always encouraged students and staff to support and uplift the youth in our community. He made numerous remarks over the years with sentiment that youth were our future. He backed up his belief with action. He ensured any accomplishments, endeavors, and accolades in community involvement and community projects involving the youth of Indian Trail, and was highlighted and recognized, made a huge impact on staff, citizens, and mostly important, our youth. Mayor Alvarez was a friend and a colleague. He had the heart of the town, and he will greatly be missed. And I agree with a lot of the comments that were said. No one in this town hall who saw Michael Alvarez was not touched in a positive way. He was the type of mayor, and I've worked with a bunch of mayors in my career that were either that the citizens were afraid to come to, but everybody knew the mayor. So I guess we say a long career, and we will be doing something more fitting into the future. And without further ado, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, we'll turn it over to Karen.
thank you, everybody. He'll greatly be missed. I kind of walked up here, and I'm kind of waiting a second because I keep waiting for the mayor to take over the meeting. So, excuse me. Agenda additions and deletions. Do we have any? Anybody? Okay. Then I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I motion to approve the agenda.
Councilman Ambergy's made a motion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Agenda approved. Next is we have some presentations. Well, the Union West Hospital Facility, we have a Seth Goldwire, VP, Facility Executive. You're up. Appreciate you coming.
Thank you, thank you. Good evening to you, town council, also guests and friends of the Indian Trail. First off, just thank you for allowing me to be here today. Very humble, just listening to some of the comments about our late Mayor Alvarez. Didn't know him personally, but certainly feels like he's someone that has made a lasting impression on this community. So really feel like I missed out on knowing a truly remarkable person, and I know he'll long be missed in this community. But I am excited, one, just to introduce myself to you, also HM Health Union West as well. My name is Seth Goldwire, and I will be the facility executive for HM Health Union West. So not originally from North Carolina, but I got here as fast as I possibly could. One, really, just because I've been a part of the team, really planning the design and the also building for the new HM Health Union West Hospital that will actually be opening and seeing patients here in the next month. And then also, I'm really excited that I will be staying on as the facility executive for the campus, really making sure that expectations that we all have for HM Health Union West are met, which is one, making sure that the quality, the culture, and that customer service feel that we all expect from our healthcare facilities are actually achieved. So today I do have a few short slides just to show you and introduce you to the great news that's actually coming in our part of the Greater Charlotte region. And so first, I'll start off with talking about home. Where is HM Health Union West located? And so it actually is at the intersection of Stallings and also Highway 74. And so if you were looking for a landmark, it's actually, if you were coming in 74 East, coming into Union County, if you saw the Union County Water Tower, we're actually right across the street from that. Also, when you think about what we call from a home standpoint, we do have our primary service area. And so just by looking at the slide, you see the red dotted line, almost in the shape of a kidney bean. So at least affectionately, that's what we call it internally. That's where we actually think the vast majority of the residents are actually going to choose healthcare. So we do feel like Union West will be a destination site for healthcare, but we feel like the vast majority of folks that use our facilities are actually coming from within that red kidney bean shape. Also, we really didn't just put up a hospital without doing some of our homework first. So the next couple of slides really just introduced to you some of the homework that we've done. We looked at some of the demographics from the community, and honestly, this is one of the fastest growing parts of the Greater Charlotte region. So we felt like this is an area that really deserved care a lot more closer to home. Also, when you think about some of the perspectives that we have in this community, we've done our research as well, done a lot of voice of the customer surveys, really asking the questions, if we were to stand up a new healthcare facility, what are some of those themes that you would like? So without any further ado, after having some of those conversations, embedding it into some of the plans that we had, this is what we came up with. HM Health Union West is a really big deal for HM Health HM Health. We've not opened up a brand new facility in over 30 years. We have had some additions, some new towers, some new renovations, but not a net new hospital footprint, so to speak. So at first glance, it really doesn't look like a hospital at all. And so that means we've listened, we've done our job well, and that's the exact premise for HM Health Union West. We want it to be calm, we want it to be inviting, and because we want it to look that way, we didn't want to do healthcare like we've always done it. It is a campus that is built for growth. On day one, we will have a 50-bed acute care facility right there on campus, but we do have enough space for one, a medical office building, which is operational right now, but then also space for a second and a third medical office building on campus. There are some additional out parcels south of the plan there where we can have some additional development, but day one, our first and really priority right now is making sure the hospital becomes operational. We do have a few renderings of what the insides of the facility look like. A lot of times when we're talking to folks in the community, letting them know about some of the services that we have, some initial feedback that I get is that, oh, I didn't know we were going to have that service at Union West. So we will be doing surgeries on the campus. We will be delivering babies. We will have the capabilities to take care of ill patients on the campus of HM Health Union West. So on day one, we really do feel like it will take care and fulfill the needs of this side of the Greater Charlotte region on day one. We will have an emergency department on the campus as well. These next couple slides really just give a few more statistics about some of the capabilities on the campus. But for me, one of the salient themes I want to push forward is take a look at what those renderings look like. Again, tons of natural light, tons of windows coming into this space. We know that, and studies really show, the more natural light that you bring into areas of care, it actually increases the healing factor for our patients, and then also improves the atmosphere for teammates that are working on the campus. A few more renderings there. Just to point out there on the left side of the screen, we actually have a garden lounge specifically for the hospital. And right through the window, you can see we actually have a respite garden. So if you're there for any procedure, you're waiting on a loved one, you didn't want to go too far, you actually have a garden that you can actually step right through and get some fresh air. On the other side of the picture, a question I routinely get is, will we have a cafeteria or anywhere to eat on campus? That answer is yes. And so those are some of the renderings of what our retail cafeteria space will look like. Our art program will also play a heavy factor in the overall aesthetic of the campus. We will have a lot of mixed media that we offer on the campus of Atrium Health Union West, and it's designed, again, to create a calming, healing feel, and also still create reactions out of most everyone who actually sees them. This slide actually shows some of the diagrams of the actual footprint of the campus. It's hard to see, but the one piece I'll explain to you is that we actually have embraced a Disney theme when it comes to transporting patients in the hospital, when it comes to moving environmental service carts or transporting any materials or supplies. A lot of that hustle and bustle will happen off stage, meaning if you're there for a loved one, you're in that calming environment, it's actually going to stay calming, and it won't be disrupted by a lot of the other day-to-day responsibilities and tasks that we have to do. So we do have a medical office building that anchors Atrium Health Union West. As I mentioned earlier, it is live, and it's fully loaded with all the specialties that this part of the Greater Charlotte region actually referenced and looked for. And so we're really just getting started. Again, this is what we felt the needs were on day one. But again, we've got space for a second medical office building as we move forward, and we continue to have the expectation that we'll deliver on the expectations that the community wants. And so this is just the last slide that shows what Atrium Health Union West Hospital looks like today. It's one of the panoramic shots, and some of the things that we like to compare, at least working with our construction team, is showing the actual renderings and the actual real-life photo, and we all struggle to see which is which. So it's just a really good job that our construction team has done actually building out this facility. And so with that, again, I thank you for your time this morning. Really just wanted to come and say, this is some exciting things that's going on our part of the Greater Charlotte region. And so wanted to lend myself to any questions or any comments, and then just thank you again for having the floor.
You got any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Anybody?
I'm assuming this is just for your general surgeries, and your trauma unit will be continue to be the main facility?
Yeah, that is correct. So we will have some additional service lines. General surgery is one of the several service lines that we'll have on the campus, but general traumas, yes, sir, will still go up down.
Okay, thank you.
Do you have time frames on which each section might be opening, or?
Yeah, so the medical office building itself has opened up actually yesterday, and then for the hospital, we do have a first patient day, which is expected on February 23rd, and so for the whole hospital, we will start patient care on February 23rd. So that's emergency department, that's some of our acute services, and then also some of our outpatient ancillary testing procedures that we'll do.
That sounds great. I hope not to be visiting soon. But anyway,
Yeah, we want you to stay healthy. We want you to stay healthy.
That's it, all I want.
Yeah, walk through. But thank you for
Well, you're
coming. Great presentation. Really exciting to have that in our area. It's really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Next, we have the fiscal year 21-22 audit review. Ms. Bennett.
If you don't mind, I'll take my mask off. I think you'll be able to hear me better. I don't have beautiful color slides. This is just an audit report, so just bear with me. We don't get very exciting. I saw on the agenda where you've given me 10 minutes. I don't know if I can stay in 10 minutes, but we're going to try really hard. If you do not mind, you have new board members. So I would like to welcome you as your auditor and just kind of roadmap you through the financial statements as I've done in the past. I won't take much time. I don't mind interruptions. So if something comes up and you want to ask a question about that right away, please interrupt me. It will not offend me in the least bit. I thank you for letting me be here tonight. I thank you for the opportunity to audit the town. You have a great staff, and I mean from the finance officer to human resources to parks and rec to engineering. They are a pleasure to work with, and you probably shouldn't say that about a company that you audit or a governmental unit that you audit, but they are very knowledgeable, very professional. They're always prepared and ready for us. So I would like to commend them and let you know that they do a great job. Without them, it would be very difficult to perform
Saying we
this audit.
overpaid the manager for the great staff, didn't have to do much?
No, I don't think so. I don't think
I mean, that's
so.
kind of how it came off, but anyway, we're just looking at the bottom line here, that's okay.
No, well, you have a good fun balance, so.
there you go.
I would like to just roadmap you through this very, very quickly. This is a thick book. It takes us all summer to come up with the information for it. And I want you to know what you're looking at. And then if you're bored one night and you can't sleep, you can read it. At the very beginning, if you'll flip through the first few pages past the table of contents, you will see the independent auditor's report. And do you have a copy with you, I hope?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. The independent auditor's report, you don't have a copy? Do we have a spare copy?
There's an extra one down there.
Is there an extra one?
I think the copier machine gave out. Anyway.
I'd hate for you to miss out on this exciting presentation.
Yeah, you know. Thank you.
If you will flip through to our letterhead, it's titled Independent Auditor's Report. This is simply what's referred to as a clean opinion. It means we've audited your financial statements and we have found them materially correct. It goes over management's responsibility, the auditor's responsibility, the auditing standards we followed, and you will see on the third page of the report that your audit was performed in accordance with government auditing standards this year. That simply means there are kind of tiers of audit. One is your generally accepted auditing standards. If you expend greater than $100,000 in grant monies, then you have to add this next tier of a little bit more testing under government auditing standards. And then if you spend in excess of $500,000 state grant money or $750,000 federal grant money, then you have what's called a single audit. So you actually went all the way to a single audit because of the Sardis Road roundabout. The more than $2 million federal grant dollars spent there required you to be subject to a single audit this year. This report will actually change next year. The auditing standards have completely rewritten it to make it more user-friendly so that the readers of the financial statements can understand more what we do. I'm not sure that it's going to help, but there will be a completely different auditor's report starting next year. It was deferred a little bit because of COVID. The next section, and I will not go over this in detail because I do not want to waste your time tonight. The next section is management's discussion and analysis. This is just a brief overview. It compares 2 years. Government accounting standards just have a financial statement being a single year. So they added this MD&A, Management's Discussion and Analysis, that is 2 years, and so you get a quick snapshot to compare the years. They have to follow GASB guidelines. They can't add a lot of fluff. They can't take things out, but it gives you just a quick summary of the year for the town. And then your financial statements, the part that we actually help audit, come into play. Exhibits 1 through Exhibit 8 are all in summary form. We actually, I've told the staff here, we start at the back because that's where all the detail is, and then we have the summary at the front. So if you just remember, these at the front are very small pictures of the town. Exhibits 1 and Exhibit 2 are government-wide. So this is like a business financial statement. It's on an accrual basis. It has all your assets, all your liabilities. It has your fixed assets. It has your long-term debt, your pension liability. So Exhibit 1 shows government-wide, all funds in summary form, your assets and liabilities. Exhibit 2 is an odd little statement that they brought out years ago. It doesn't look like anything you would see in the business world. This, again, is government-wide. It's all funds. It's on the accrual basis, not your budget basis. And it shows your expenses first by function, and then your charges, what you charge to provide those services, any operating or capital grants. And then if you look, the fifth column over, those are all negatives. And GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, did that on purpose. They want you to see that you don't charge for your services. You are a government. And so property taxes and state revenues pay for a large amount of the services you provide. And so this odd financial statement shows you that your charges and your grants, your specific grants, do not cover the cost of law enforcement or parks and rec or general government. And you'll see later in the bottom part of that statement, your general revenues show that your property taxes, your unrestricted grants, and your other taxes and licenses, which are local option sales tax and franchise tax, those actually cover the cost of the services that you provide. Exhibit 3-1 is just your governmental funds. So, and if I'm taking this too low, you tell me. It's not this, I'm sorry, it's the big book that we're going through. Exhibit 3-1 is just governmental funds, so it's everything but stormwater. And it shows you your assets and liabilities, but this is now on the budgetary basis. This is what you're used to seeing each month from Jim when you get budget versus actual or financial reports. These are your assets and liabilities on the budget basis for only your governmental funds. Exhibit 4-1 are your revenues and expenses in summary form for your governmental funds. Exhibit 5 is just the general fund. This is a required statement. It shows your original budget, your amended budget, your actual amounts, and the variance. And I would like to point out one thing. You, during the year, through your amended budget, appropriated fund balance of around $1.4 million. So that meant you were willing to spend fund balance or willing to spend savings if necessary to meet your budget. And if you'll see, you did not need to do that. The net change in the general fund balance for the year was $3.3 million. So you did not need to use that fund balance, which is good. Exhibit 6, 7, and 8 all deal with the stormwater fund. Exhibit 6 are your assets and liabilities. Exhibit 7 are your revenues and expenses. And Exhibit 8 are your cash flows. And then your notes begin on page 11. Page 11 through 18 are just your significant accounting policies. On the bottom of page 19, in almost all governmental audited financial statements in the state of North Carolina, note 2 will be where you look to see if you had any general statute violations, if you had any amounts over budget, if you had compliance issues, if you had deficit fund balance. These have to be disclosed in your notes. This year, you did have a deficit fund balance, which means you spent more money than you took in, but it was on a project fund. It was the Unionville Indian Trail Road and Sardis Road project, the roundabout project. And the issue there was you had to spend the money out, you had to pay the contractor, but you could not request the money from DOT, and DOT had not approved it and sent it back to you. That money was all requested after June 30th and brought in, but as of June 30th, when the financial statements are dated, there was a deficit fund balance, and we are required to report that to you. Beginning on page 20 are your detail notes. This goes into a little bit more detail about your assets and liabilities and your fund balance or equity of the town. Pages 20 through 35 give you these detail notes. You'll see some more information on your capital assets, on your payables. Pages 24 through 28 give you detailed information on the state retirement. Information on your long-term debt begins on page 30. There wasn't any new long-term debt in 2021 for the town. At the bottom of page 32 is a little bit of information on operating leases. I do want to point out there will be a new accounting standard adopted in the year you're in now for how you account for and report leases. And so this will look different next year. Your staff is already working on this. Interfund activity and transfers are on pages 33 and 34. And then the very last page of the notes, page 37, we are required to report any subsequent events, anything that happened from June 30th to the day we issued your audit report. And so there were several significant things that needed to be disclosed to your management, and we decided to disclose these. One was that there is construction of a second ABC board location. The other is your ARPA money, your American Rescue Plan money that you got in, some in August, and then you'll get more in August of 2022. And then the last was that you issued general obligation bonds of $6 million in September. So those all happened from June 30th until the audit report was issued, but the readers of the financial statement would need to know this information. And then the next section, there are 2 pages on the pension. This is actuarial information. I am not an actuary. I cannot explain these 2 pages, so please don't ask questions. Then the detail information starts on page 40, pages 40 through 54. Give you budget versus actual for every fund of the town. And this is in detail information, and then it's again summarized at the front. Property tax information is on pages 55, 56, and 57. And then there's a compliance section at the back. Here again, this is because you spent more than $100,000 in federal and state grant dollars. You had to have an audit in accordance with government auditing standards. If there were any deficiencies in the internal control or any violations of North Carolina general statutes, they would be reported in this letter. You did not have any such deficiencies or violations. And then the rest of the financial statements deal with the fact that you spent more than $750,000 in federal grant dollars. Here again, this was the roundabout project. This was a federal project, so we had to look at the compliance, the financial reporting, the internal controls over this project. If there were any findings, they would be reported in this section, but we did not have any findings. And the very last page is your grant schedule. This shows you the federal dollars you spent in fiscal 21. It shows you your state grant dollars you spent in fiscal year 21 and any local match or local dollars you spent. And that is a real quick roadmap through the financial statements. If you have any questions, I'll answer those. And then I have 2 more things I need to go over with you.
Do you have any questions?
I have none.
Anybody? Mr. Gage? We have no questions.
Okay. The item that is up on display is a comparison we do, and I will not go over that with you tonight, but it just gives you a snapshot of a few key financial things we think you might want to pull out of the financial statements. We do 3 years at a time so that you can compare and see how your years are going. And then the last column, the gray column, is a statewide average. The North Carolina Local Government Commission sends out a memo every year, and it groups municipalities and counties by population group. So you fall in the 10,000 to roughly 50,000 population, and you can see how you compare. Say the top line is cash, so that's your total cash for the year over the last 3 years, and then how you compare to municipalities in your population group for their average cash balance. And there should be, I think there are a couple of pages behind that. These are the actual excerpts from the LGC memo, so you can see the municipalities that are in your group. You can see who you're comparing yourselves to. But the amount in the gray is just the average. There should also be a loose letter in your financial statements. I don't think this is going to be on an overhead. We are required to communicate certain things with you. We as the auditor are to communicate with you, those charged with governance. We have to let you know if there are any new accounting policies that were adopted this year, and there were not, what the significant estimates are, and those are in here. If we had difficulties performing the audit, if we had disagreements with management, which we did not, what the significant adjustments were, and all of this is in the letter you will find in the back of your financial statements. And then the last thing I have to go over, and I'm sorry to take so long, In North Carolina, we have the State Treasurer's Office, and they formed the Local Government Commission in the 1930s around the Depression to make sure that towns were properly handling bonds and debt and fiscal control over their financial assets. The Local Government Commission is very involved in your audit. The audit contract you sign each year has to be approved by LGC. Your audit report has to be submitted to LGC for their approval before it can be presented to you. What used to be, if any of you have been in this for a while, LGC used to issue what's called a white letter. So they would go through your audit report, they would go through any letters from the auditor, and they would determine financial indicators that they felt you needed to address. And they would send a letter on white letterhead. That's why it's called a white letter. You would get a white letter, and the unit would then have to respond to LGC. LGC has passed this on to us now, the audit firm. And so we enter information from your audit report into a portal at LGC, and it generates this report. I cannot take credit for it. I cannot take the blame for it either, but I am required by state law to present this information to you. And so it starts, are you clicking for me, Abby? Thank you. I'm sorry. It starts with the next color slide. I do have a color slide. Is it? It was in the agenda packet. You should have it. That's it. There. There's my color. That's as exciting as auditors get. This was generated by LGC, and we are required to present this to you in a public meeting. This is a new requirement this year. It's very confusing. I have been auditing governmental units longer than I want to admit to any of you, and I found this confusing. So I'm going to try to break it down for you as quickly as I can. If you ignore all of the numbers and the words, the gist of it is state law requires you to maintain what's called an 8% fund balance available. It means your fund balance that's available to cover the expenditures of your general fund. 8% is 1 month. The state law is 8%. LGC's recommendation is 25%, which means you'd have enough fund balance to cover the expenses for 3 months of the town if you had to. So, and the bottom middle of this first page, it's telling you that the minimum threshold is 25%. The average for units your size is 46%. Indian Trail's fund balance available using this calculation is 160.49%. So you have a very healthy fund balance. If you are just a nerd like me, and you end up comparing the report I gave you with the 3 years to the report that LGC generated, you'll see that that fund balance calculation is a little bit different, but they took Powell bill money out, which is the money you have for streets. So they calculated it a little bit differently, but the gist of it is you have a healthy fund balance. The second page deals with units that have a water and sewer fund. You do not, so just ignore the second page. The third page deals with units that offer electricity and have an electric fund. You do not, so ignore that page. We've only got 2 pages to go, and then you're done with me. I'm going to briefly go through each of these questions. We are required to do this year by LGC. If you have any questions, stop me. The first question is, was your audit report submitted on time? And the answer is yes. So if you look at like the third column over, that's where the answer is. The second one I think is very confusing, but their point is that you do not need to have 3% or more of uncollected taxes compared to your budget. So if you look at Exhibit A-1 in the audited financial statements, if you've budgeted an amount and then you collected much less than that, LGC sees that as a indicator of concern. You actually collected more than you budgeted, so you do not have an issue there. The next question is, do you anticipate a decrease in property values? And you do not, so that is not a problem. The next question is, do you have an effective pre-audit process? And for those of you who may be new to this, that means, does your budget cover your cost? And do you have appropriate purchase orders and approval of invoices to make sure that you don't spend money that's not in your budget? And the answer to that is yes, you do have an effective pre-audit process. The next question deals with, are you under a mandate placed on you by the Department of Environmental Quality? And you are not, so the answer is no. The next unit wants to know if there are indicators of concern. If you have constant over budget amounts, constant late submittal of your audits, there are reasons where LGC will actually come in and take over your finance department. You don't have to worry about that. And so the answer there is no. The last question on this page is, did the unit have statutory violations listed? Did you violate any general statutes? Did you violate the daily deposit requirement and various other general statutes that apply to your budget and your fiscal control? And the answer was no. If any of these were issues, they would be red in that third column, and then you would have to respond to LGC to tell them how you were going to handle this. We'll turn to the last page. The first question is, did you have debt service payments that were made late? The answer is no. The next question deals with if you have a landfill, so it says false because it's in A for you. The next question and the bottom question ask if there were findings in your audit report that indicate financial concern and that you need to correspond with LGC on, and the answer to both of those is no. And that next to the last question deals with municipalities who have an electric fund, so that is NA for you. The gist of all of this is if there were any, this report will be required to be presented to you every year. You will get a copy of it every year. LGC's tweaking it, so I think it will look different next year. If there's any area of concern in that third column, it will be red. If so, your board, you the board, your finance department, your manager, you will have to have a written response that's submitted to LGC through their portal saying you're aware of the problem, this is how you're going to address it, this is how you're going to correct these issues in the future. And that was a lot to cover that. I'm sorry, but it's a new form this year, and I wanted to make sure you understood it. And that is all I have. I am always available for questions now. I'm available for questions later, just whatever you need.
I was able to retain everything you said. So.
I am so impressed, and you're new,
I'm
too.
a computer, yeah.
Wonderful. Then you can present the audit next year.
Yeah, next time.
He's got a perfect audio memory.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Do y'all have any questions?
Anybody questions? You got any questions? Questions? I do have a couple of comments.
Okay.
What this audit shows is I'd just like to say I'm pretty proud of this, is when you look at this, there's 46 cities in this category that we're in. We've got the 5th lowest tax rate on this list, while at the same time having the 5th highest fund balance. And what that's shown is at that same time is we've made sure we have quality staff, and we've made sure that staff has competitive pay to surrounding area. So we've been able to do this, and while at the same time being recognized as a top 15 city to live in the United States. So this audit just shows what a great job all around staff, everyone's done, Mr. Wadowich, Mr. McLam, and everyone here in the staff has done to make sure, and this audit just, to me, just proves what a wonderful job that we've done with the tax rate. We have a low tax rate, we have a great fund balance, and I'm just really pleased that you stood up here and gave me these numbers. It just verifies, like you said, we got a great staff and things are great here, and really appreciate your time and you pointing this out to the public. Thank you.
When our oldest daughter was in elementary school, their school used to have a thing called a pat on the back award, and it was a big deal. If someone noticed you doing something good, you would get a pat on the back award. And she came home one afternoon so excited, she called it a pat back award, and she said, I got a pat back award. I feel like this audit report is a pat back award for Indian Trail. It shows how strong you are. So you are correct.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bennett. Thank you.
And if you have any questions later, I know you're going to go home and read this.
I gotta go to
You
sleep.
really do need to read it. Just let Mike or Jim or anyone know if you have questions, and they can let you know how to get in touch
Call
with me.
Jim and say, what questions should we ask, and he'll let us know.
He'll know the answers. He'll know the answers. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Ms. Bennett.
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, just a couple comments, if I might.
You've been known for a few, go ahead.
I'll keep it brief. You also have a letter, maybe a page and a half letter from me in your package that takes 60 or 70 pages and looks at the 5 or 6 categories that you might want to, look at. It's all good news, and nothing would do Jim and I heart get it puttering a little bit faster than to sit down with you if you have any questions to try to explain it.
Thank you, Mike.
Right?
Thank you. So, have anything you want to add or ask? Okay, yeah, okay. Ms. Green, do we have any public comments? No public comment, so, is Lieutenant Hunky here?
He is,
Oh, wow.
Do what now? Okay, he had to leave, okay, so, we can have him speak later if he comes back.
right.
Okay,
We do have the budget calendar I need to review with the board.
okay, can we go
Right.
over that?
Yep.
Each year, we put together a budget calendar. It's a very,
Do we need a motion on the audit?
you could have a motion to accept as information.
Do we need to do that? Okay, we need a motion to accept the audit information.
Motion to accept the audit information.
Okay, we have a motion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carried. Sorry about that.
That's quite all right. This is your budget
Go ahead.
calendar.
Sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. Perfect. This is your budget calendar for FY 22-23. We just want to get a consensus that it works with everyone. We are in the budget process already. And the dates that we would like to submit to you for consideration is having 2 budget workshops, much like you did in 2020. The first one being March 12th, which is a Saturday at 8 a.m., would be here in this facility, and then April 2nd at 8 a.m. I would send you the budget on May 3rd. Under the statutes, we have to have a public hearing. The public hearing would be on May 24th, and we would propose that we approve the budget on June 14th. In addition to approving the budget that you do each year, you would also set the tax rate and the fee structure. The reason we like to approve it earlier in June is because once you approve the budget, we have some back office stuff we have to do as far as resetting our systems to get ready for the new fiscal year and start to close out the old fiscal year so the auditor can come in the summertime and begin their work. So I wanted to send that to you to see if those dates will work for y'all.
Works for me.
Anybody got any suggestions? They want this okay for now? If anybody's got any problems, conflicts, we can reach out to the town manager.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we need a motion for the consent agenda. Anybody want to make that motion? I'll make the motion. Go ahead.
I make the motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mr. Amberg has made the motion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion approved. Do we have the old business, American Rescue Funds? Is that Mr. McLaurin and Mr. Wadovich?
Jim is our resident expert on the ARPA funds. The final regulations have been released, and Jim's going to tell you everything you need to know about it.
Good evening. Good to be before you. My first time. Welcome again to all the new council and Todd. So this is all good news. I'll go through this briefly, but the ARPA fund, we're going to be receiving $12,700,000. We got the first installment on August 21st, $6,387,000. We put that in the bank at First Citizens, earning 0.15% interest. And so far, we've earned about $2,600 in interest income, and that money's available for any governmental services. So just recently, in letter D, great news, the U.S. Treasury issued a final rule. So the first $10 million for revenue replacement is available, and I'll read that to you. The final rule states that we're able to identify $10 million in money, which is entitled. The rule allows broad latitude to use the funding to support government services. So basically, we have $10 million, and Mike's been working on it, and our goal is to bring that before you, council, to fund whatever the priorities are. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We want to bring it back to you and use it in the best way we can, but it's for governmental services. The final rule was great. We waited and waited. It was about 6 months in waiting. The only thing we want to do tonight, the first step, is to adopt the ordinance. It's the first step. And the requirement, Ordinance 002, Kathy, we're going to adopt that tonight. And we keep going forward, and we'll keep you in the loop. Mike, you want to add anything?
What this ordinance does, it allows us to begin to account for those ARPA funds. And one of the things that we have promised this board is that before we start to release any of this money, we're going to get your approval. Now, this is a lot of money, and different cities are doing it different ways, but I think where we want to go, and I want to make sure that we're in alignment with the board's wishes, is that we reach out to the board to look at what your what you feel like the priorities are for the community, and some of you have shared some of your ideas, and then bring back a proposal of dedicating X amount of money for this item or dedicating X amount of money for that item. We do have to at least spend some of the money beginning or by July 1st or July 31st. We have several projects for the sheriff's office that y'all have already approved that we think would be ARPA qualified. We will bring that back to you at a future meeting and actually get your permission to release that, to use that money for that use. So unless there's any disagreement by this board, we will reach out to each of you to kind of have that discussion on how you would like to see the funds used. Does that work, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Does anybody have any questions, Mr.?
You said the 1st or the 31st, we're not sure of the date.
July 1st or July 31st. That's not going to be a problem. You just
Okay.
have to begin spending it.
Okay.
And we've already got some sheriff's office items that
Right.
we can meet that. The other thing that we can do is if we document revenue loss as a result of the pandemic using a formula set aside by the federal government, we can also use that money for the town. And I think Jim used the formula and calculated like $530,000 or something like that.
Mr. Gay, you got any questions?
No.
Ms. Bueller? Well, I have talked to the town manager about this, and I don't know, are you planning on using the funds to hire someone? I know the funds can be used to hire someone to go through this and the rules and everything, or are you planning on doing that, or are you just going to do it?
Yes, that's one of the things we want to look at doing is looking at hiring kind of a grants expert that can work with us on this fund, because finance is, stretched to the limit already, and there's a lot of paperwork with this, and as the town grows and matures, there are a lot of grant opportunities that we can look at.
Yeah. I had asked the town manager I discussed a little bit about a committee, but instead of a committee, I had asked them to just I wanted to make sure each council person had their input on this, because I know we all got different things that's going to be important to us. Mr. Amberg has talked about, like fire equipment, and, the sheriff's department is important, and maybe, EMS, and we may have charities and different things, and we may need another public works building those type of things is, so I think we all have different things that are important. So instead of a committee, I thought that, like you had suggested, I appreciate that.
Right.
Is, they come to us and get our input, and then we kind of get a consensus. But that way, everybody, instead of just putting two council people on a committee, is everybody gets a good input on this. And I thought that would be important to each of you, if that's okay.
Agree.
Okay, so we got a kind of consensus on that. I appreciate that. That's, I think we can kind of get like an attorney type atmosphere of yes or no, can we do it, and get some things going. And I think, Jim, you've already kind of decided on there's there's things we can do, right? And so we can get moving on this. I appreciate the way we're handling this. I really do. Thank you, Mr. McLaurin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I think I shared with you last fall that they were going to loosen the rules. We didn't know they were going to loosen them that much, which is a good thing. The deadline for obligating the funds will be December 31st, 2024, and spending the money out is December 31st, 2026. But we should be able to hit that pretty easy. Thank you.
Well, we need a motion. Anybody want to make the motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to approve the ARPA grant project ordinance number signed 002 dated 1/25/2022.
Councilman Amberg's made the motion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Motion carries unanimously. Next thing is new business. First review of new code book and adoption orders. Ms. Queen.
Before I start, I just want to show you, this is our new code book that was put together by Unicode. This is just the hard copy. We have 3 hard copies in the town. And then this is this is what we have had, which is just a compilation of what we've had over the years. So thank you for letting me speak on this, Mayor Pro Tem and council members. I wanted to present the Indian Trail Code. The code, as you know, is a collection of laws passed by you, local government, for the town of Indian Trail. In 2017, the code was codified internally per North Carolina law, and in 2020, the board approved for the town to engage a company, Unicode, to review the town's code and to bring it into compliance with state law and to create an easily searchable online version for the public. So over the past year and a half, I've worked together with key staff, the town manager, the town attorney, Unicode, in bringing the code up to date. And I want to say that while we worked with Unicode, they were professional. There were some delays, but we really give most of the credit to our town attorney for rewriting and updating the code that we have presented today. And while many of the updates and the revisions were needed, the revised code presented is largely a reflection of the current code, and any of the deviations and modifications were simply to ensure that we're compliant with the law, with the state law. So in addition to the updates that we have to the code, we did add a new ordinance to the code. It's called a Commercial Building Standard Ordinance. And what this allows is it allows for the code enforcement to enforce codes for violations against town ordinances on commercial properties in addition to residential properties. Deleted from the code were ordinances that related to background checks for ABC applicants. That is still something that is done, but it's not relevant for us to do here, and our say really has no weight. We also deleted cable TV systems and vehicles for hire. Regarding a noise ordinance, the town does not have a noise ordinance, but we did a few years ago adopt a resolution to enforce the county's nuisance ordinance, which is directed at noise offenses. So the new code that we have, the one in the red, will be adopted will be presented to you on February 8th for consideration. There is a new law that says these types of ordinances, ones that have criminal penalties in them, have to be reviewed twice, so it will come back again February 8th. Once it's adopted, it will become our official code, and it will replace and repeal any ordinances that we have pertaining to local law that precede it. The new code will then be placed on the website, or actually on the web, and the official code and the revised code book will be in my office if you want to stop by, take a look, and see some of the comparisons. We brought this up, you've seen it, maybe Todd Barber, I don't know, but the others have not. I wanted to show you what they look like, but before I do, I also wanted to mention that in 2020, the Planning Department also engaged Municode, along with the clerk's office, to put their UDO, which governs land use, online. So the UDO and the code will be side by side on the opening page in the Municode system. So the first one I want to show you is Beaufort County, and it is the code of ordinances, which is our Indian Trail Code. The other one, their Community Development Code, is our UDO. So Abby, if you'll just open the Community Development Code, this is what it looks like. Abby, can you just search animals or whatever we did earlier? And you can see it gives you all the references to animals easily at your fingertips. Now this is Beaufort, I'm not sure which way you say that one. And let's go back to ours. The reason I showed you this one, because ours is going to have that cover page like that, but we're not there yet. And the reason I had her open the Community Development Code is when you open what we have for Indian Trail, it's the UDO because our code is not there yet. So this is the code for Indian Trail for the Municode for the UDO. Does that make sense? This is our UDO, and once you approve our code, we'll have that nice cover page that Beaufort has, and ours will look like that. Karen, do you have anything to add to this? Do you have any questions?
Anybody, do you have any questions?
Now you said there's going to be a noise ordinance coming up. Who brought that up?
There has been question in the past about a noise ordinance for Indian Trail, and I was just pointing out that the way that the town has chosen to handle it is by resolution. We have adopted the county's ordinance, so our Union County Sheriff's Office follows the noise ordinance for the county for the town of Indian Trail.
Okay.
You got any more questions?
No, sir.
Mr. Gay, you got any questions? No more questions. I appreciate this. I think a couple of years ago was when I got here is all the ordinance wasn't published, and I know you've done a good job on this, and I really appreciate staff and you and everybody getting this. I think it's important that the people know the ordinances. That way when someone like my wife gets a warning parking ticket, she can say, who's the idiot made that ordinance, and I can say I did. So I think it's important everybody knows the ordinance, and that really did happen. But anyway, but thank you, Ms. Queen.
Thank you.
We need a motion.
No, not tonight. It has to have two views, so we'll be back February 8th.
We're going to make the motion in February. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Queen. Creation of new positions. You want to present this, or you want me to talk about it, or where are we at on this?
I'd
Got my
prefer-
name beside here.
I'd prefer that you talk about it if you wish.
I'll talk about the first one. Okay, full-time economic development position. A couple years ago, we had, a retail economic position. It was not a full-time employee position. It was a 1099 position. And with the COVID coming in, we just didn't feel like at the time that we needed that position. No one was building retail or expanding retail at the time. So at this point, I think even if y'all ran, and I know a lot of times we're going from high density and trying to go more from a residential to a commercial, I feel like it would be beneficial that the town had a full-time business development person again. The state representatives, all, the three that represent Indian Trail, the Senator Johnson, Representative Art, Representative Will, have all been highly rated for their work and bringing jobs to North Carolina. I'd like to see Indian Trail and Union County bring more jobs. I'd like to see us flip for more people leaving the county and Indian Trail to work than, instead being here. I think from a residential to commercial, we're at 71%, correct? And so maybe we could, look to increase that. Do you think, what's the goal, 75% or so, you think?
Sure. The more commercial and business you can get, the better you get for your taxes.
Well,
Yeah.
and bring jobs too. So I know in the budget, in the community college, there's a money for building the and a septic program in more buildings, so I'd like, since that's right down the road here at Indian Trail, I think an economic developer could work with Chris Plate and the different ones, and the county commissioners and our state reps and Mr. McLaurin here, and look to bring businesses and jobs. So if we could have I guess you want a consent, is to have the McLaurin and the staff to look into this. Is everybody got thoughts on this, or would you like to add, Mr. Gay? Would you be okay with this?
Mr. Barber?
Councilwoman Buholic, you got any comments or anything like that? Mr. Ambergy?
Nope.
Everybody
Mr.
good
Barber,
with it then?
the consent is for them to bring back a job description for the position for approval by council. Is that okay?
Bring it back? Okay. Can you do that? You think that's something your
Yes, sir.
your forte you could handle?
We'll do our best. We'll put together some thoughts and what we think you're interested in.
But I think we're interested, instead of the way it was set up last time, is having this a employee of the town, correct?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay. It was kind of different before.
Correct.
So, and now if you'd like to present us a part-time IT administration position, Mr. McLaurin.
You've heard tonight several times on how much the town's growing. And as the town grows, the town government needs to change and be able to respond to those needs. A few years ago, when Abby Ball was hired, was it 4 years ago? I'm sorry? 2.5. Well, they hired Abby. The story I've been told, they hired Abby as communications officer, and after she accepted the job, they said, "Oh, you're also doing IT." Abby has done a wonderful job in IT, but the demands of that part of her job have grown beyond what one person can do. IT is much more technical than when I got in it doing hard code programming in COBOL a number of years ago. And so we need someone that can speak the language and be able to resolve the IT programs. I mean, right now we're negotiating broadband enhancements to this building and to the parks. The way we do our IT is, a lot of it is contracted out, the back office, the servers, the security and stuff like that. And this is more of the front end. And so we're asking your authorization to let us advertise for a part-time IT person. We would bring back a job description at your next meeting. I will be honest with you that as the city grows and changes, eventually that may grow into a full-time position. We think this would also be covered by ARPA money, and we will verify that also. And Abby and I would appreciate it if you would say yes.
Hey, Mike,
Yes, sir.
you're farming out the backside of the IT.
Yes, sir.
Why can't we use that same company to do the front side?
Well, we actually tried that approach. I spoke to our vendor to see if he could assign someone to town hall for a couple, 3 days a week, and he verified, he declined that offer.
I mean, you guys, they're on call, right? I mean, we call them when we need something.
What we do is their specialty is more of the hardware of the computer and the servers and the security. A lot of what Abby deals with is everything from trying to configure this room with AV to negotiating a contract on broadband to if one of you have problems with your cell phone or something like that. If for some reason Abby would get sick or go out of town on vacation, I need to have somebody that can fill that gap.
Okay. Anybody got any other questions? Mr. Gay? No questions, okay. So this will be expanding our communications department?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, all right. But everybody, I'm good with it. Anybody else, Mr. Gay? You, Mr. Amberger?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
You got a consensus?
Well, I appreciate it. We'll bring back a job description and recommended pay on that.
Thank you.
We ready to move on, sir?
We got discussion items and manager's update. You got the floor, Mr. McLaurin.
Manager's update. I want to give the latest funeral arrangements for Mayor Alvarez. Just to remind everybody, it is also on our social media.
The mayor will lie in state at the Indian Trail Town Hall, the Shirley Howe Room, beginning on Friday, this Friday, from noon until 8 p.m. Will remain here until, and they will open the doors again on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. until noon, which is a slight change. Before it was like 1:30. Both viewings are open to the public. We do ask people to try to park around the back of the building. We're also going to do two things. One, we're going to move all the town vehicles to a different location, so to free up as much parking. And we will also close Town Hall Friday at 11 a.m. in honor of Mayor Alvarez. We may have some staff that may choose to remain in the building and continue to work, and they can certainly do that. Saturday, once the body leaves here, it will then go to the James B. Crump VFW post, where he will lie in state from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday. From there, he will be carried from the VFW to the First Baptist Church in Indian Trail. Visitation will take place from 3 to 4 at the First Baptist Church, right down here, and then there will be a memorial service at 4 p.m. All of these events are open to the public. So he will certainly be missed and has made quite a footprint on this town. If there are any changes, we will post it on social media and we will notify you as soon as we know. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I have one more item, if I might, sir.
Go ahead.
I will send you an email later this evening. We will start to stripe Town Hall parking spaces tomorrow as part of just kind of sprucing up the building. So that will start in the morning, and then we will start in the afternoon doing the back part. So if you're visiting Town Hall, we may ask you to move your car. That's all I have, sir.
Well, thank you. Ms. Walter?
Mr. Gay, council comments.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and everybody's wishes and thoughts on the mayor. One of the most exciting meetings tonight when we get into all the nuts and bolts of the finances, but hope you all are safe going home. Hope we don't have to worry about weather this weekend, and look forward to seeing you next meeting. Thank you.
Ms. Bialik.
I just want to thank the town staff. Obviously, have done a great job, as we saw tonight, and just thank everyone else for coming tonight, and that's it.
Mr. Everett.
You said it right. No, I just learned a lot tonight, you know, with the budget and everything. It's a lot to take in, and I didn't realize how much work you guys really did here. And I commend you for it, and you got a big responsibility to the citizens of Indian Trail, and we thank you for all you do, guys. And again, Michael Alvarez will truly be missed. He was a good friend. God bless y'all.
Mr. Barber.
Well, first off is, once again, I want to congratulate the three of you on your election, and I look forward to working with you. And also is, I know Mayor Alvarez was looking forward to working with you, and he endorsed and helped each of you get elected, so your legacy of being up here will always, his spirit will be with you. So I think that's a good thing that he had, you know, three people that he loved to be sitting up here, and I know he was really looking forward to working with you. So I think each of you can be very proud of your relationship that you had with Michael and move forward. Ms. Ford, I think, did give us, 1,000 masks here at Town Hall.
Correct.
So if any business, anybody out there, if you need masks and whatever, reach out to our town staff here, Mr. Mike McLaurin. We've got a bunch of masks if anybody needs them. So, and I think she has more if we need them, correct?
I think the number was over 1 million. We only took 1,000.
So, you know, anyway, if you want to reach out to us out there, you're a business or whatever, need some masks, we have a connection. So I'd like to thank the staff and Ms. Queen and all y'all for helping me get ready and getting the agenda together and filling in during this time. I don't mind, being a mayor pro tem and filling in on a temporary basis, but I would like the public to know is, and everybody keeps asking me, but I have no interest in being mayor. So you can quit emailing me, you can quit asking me, and you can quit texting me. So I won't, so you can consider that a public statement. I have no interest in being the mayor. I don't want to be the mayor. It's not my goal. I was elected to represent the people as a council person, and I feel like that's the place that God put me, and that's where I'm going to stay. So that is where I'm at. So I don't like people wondering. We will go through a process among ourselves here of selecting another mayor, and we will have open and honest discussions between us, and we will be nominating another mayor. It'll probably be a couple months at least, out of respect for Alvarez himself, and I think that's genuinely fair to his legacy. So I just want to put that out there so everybody will know. So if you're wondering if I'm going to be the mayor, the answer is no. So other than that, I'd like to have everybody have a blessed evening and to be safe out there in the weather. And I pray for the shooting. I'm assuming we'll get an update on that, and that's very concerning, so. But other than that, I need a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Mr. Hamburg has made the motion. All those in favor, raise your hand. Everybody have a blessed day.